Good morning, everyone. We're going to now begin. I'll just ask a couple of housekeeping notes for anyone with cell phones, if you can put them on vibrate. If anyone requires washroom facilities, we have them just outside here on the left. And our last piece of duty is that during the presentations, we're going to ask for you to take notes down. And at the end of the presentation, we're going to have our question and answer period, and you can answer or ask all the questions that you want. So good morning. My name is Laura Jakowski. I'm the acting manager of Congress and for the Federation. And today, we're excited to be here at the University of Regina, and welcome to everyone. Next, I would like to introduce our Executive Director, Gabriel Miller, and he'll now say a few words. Thank you.
This is a room still waking up, I think. Good morning, bon matin tout le monde. C'est un grand plaisir d'être ici avec tout le monde ce matin, aujourd'hui. It's a real pleasure for me to be here with you this morning in Regina. I know that I'm still learning this job because the prospect of addressing a room with maybe 100 university professors in it is equal parts terrifying and equal parts exciting for me. It feels like a recurring dream I've had a few times, but so far it's a good dream, so I appreciate it, and I'm very happy to be here with you. I just want to say a couple words. First, I want to say it's just terrific to be here with our partners in Congress. I just went through my first Congress in Toronto at Ryerson University, and I mean my first Congress. I don't mean the first one I was executive director for. I mean the first one I'd ever stepped foot into. And I said last night at Dr. Timmons' house, it was a bit like stepping foot on another planet, because it is an experience unlike any other I've had professionally or personally. The diversity of people, the mix of scholarly associations, the sheer level of activity over hundreds of rooms. You know, we had a presentation by our director of events. She put up a slide. I don't know if we'll have one today like this. And it showed at a moment at Congress, the peak moment in Congress, the number of activities happening at the same time, and compared it to the world's largest conference centers. Las Vegas, I think, is now the busiest conference center in the world. And at the Las Vegas Conference Center, they can have events going on in 250 rooms at the same time. At the peak of Congress, there's events happening in 300 different rooms at the same time. That's a mind-boggling thing to me. But once you embrace it, it's also a wonderful thing, because you just think about the sheer amount of activity and intellect and passion for people's subjects that's happening. And it's a wonderful thing to be in the middle of, and just to sort of wander around and enjoy and meet people. And it is a partnership. And that partnership is, you know, for me, between our team at the Federation. Many of the people who are key to that are right at this table out front here. It's a partnership with the university, and it is an undertaking that is years in the making for a university. And we are so appreciative of the University of Regina taking on this challenge, and the community at the University of Regina embracing it. And also, of course, at the heart of Congress are the scholarly associations. And so those of you who are here representing scholarly associations today, we know that it's your programming that really brings Congress to life. And we greatly, greatly appreciate the work you're doing to make Regina 2018 a huge success. We're also joined today, and I'm not sure if they're in the room yet, but there's some folks here from the University of British Columbia. There they are. And they are here because they'll be hosting Congress in 2019. And part of hosting any year, as the team from Regina knows, is learning every step of the way in the years leading up to it. So it's great to have you folks here. Thank you for making the trip. I hope you like what you see. I hope it makes you go home and look forward to the journey that's ahead for UBC. Just before I introduce Dr. Chase, I just want to say, you know, I think everyone in this room knows what it's like to work hard on something. But not everything at the end gives you the chance to look back and say, boy, that was worth the work. And I think Congress is one of those things. The chance to build relationships, the chance to see in such a tangible way so much work culminate in an experience that Dr. Timmons said she hopes will be memorable, and that I'm sure will be. It's, to me, a beautiful and exciting odyssey. I'm so glad that we'll be taking this adventure together. I think we'll hear a lot about the work involved today, but I want to make sure that at every step it's also an experience that you value and that you'll carry with you in the years ahead. So thank you for being here. I hope we have as much fun as is humanly possible at a Congress planning meeting, and I look forward to working with you over the next year. With that, I'd like to introduce my friend and yours, and a very gracious host, someone who has already taught me a number of things about the University of Regina and organ music, Dr. Tom Chase.
Thank you, Gabriel. Good morning, everybody. I'd like particularly to greet our colleagues from the Federation. It's fantastic to have you here on campus, and we've been working with you for some time. The process, the bid, goes back to about 2012, so we've been working pretty steadily in the background, but now is when things really start to ramp up. Noel Starblanket, our life speaker, is delayed on the way down from Yorkton, but he will be joining us later, and we'll greet him when he arrives. I'd like particularly to acknowledge two people this morning, Dr. André Magnon, who is our academic convener. André, people might not know you yet, so stand up and take a bow. André is a professor of sociology and social studies who specializes in food and food distribution. He's just a wonderful scholar and colleague, and we're delighted that he's taken on the role of academic convener. I'd also like to introduce to you, for those of you who haven't yet met her, Patty Niebergall. Patty, could you stand up? Patty is our project manager. And all roads on logistics lead through Patty's office. She's done a fantastic job, and we should take a picture of her now and then take a picture after Congress. It's a very demanding role, so thank you, Patty. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to you briefly today and to share with you how excited we are to host Congress 2018. When we got the news from Jean-Marc back several years ago that we were going to host it, we sort of pinched ourselves and said, wow, the bid we thought was a strong one, but the competition was very strong. And when the news came in that we had been selected, we were delighted, and the excitement has only grown since then. For some of you, this may be the first visit to our campus, and we hope that you have the chance to take in some of our beautiful surroundings. In Regina here, the main campus is on Treaty 4 land. In Saskatoon, our operations are on Treaty 6 land. In Regina, of course, we're situated in one of North America's largest urban parks. It's a truly beautiful campus, a beautiful park, and a beautiful city, and we welcome those of you visiting us from elsewhere. Planning for Congress, as I say, is underway. These meetings are a very important step. As program chairs and local arrangement coordinators, you play an absolutely vital role. We developed a theme for this 2018 Congress, Gathering Diversities, and it honors Regina's history as a buffalo hunting ground. Wascana and Cree recollects the days in which buffalo bones were placed in a site which is now part of the city, a sacred meeting place for generations of Indigenous peoples. The theme, therefore, is a nod to the city's past, but it also speaks very strongly to who we are now and what we will be in the future. This campus is committed to indigenization. We are home to First Nations University of Canada, one of our 3 federated colleges. We have just one building over a very busy and wonderful Aboriginal Student Center, supporting the roughly 13% of our campus enrollments who are self-declared First Nations and Métis students, and we're very proud of that. We're also a campus committed to internationalization. We were the first Canadian university to formalize relationships with Chinese academic institutions, and today we have nearly 150 active agreements with 100 institutions around the world. These and other partnerships laid the foundation for an increasingly diverse student body. 70% of our students come from outside the city. 14% of our students come from Canada outside of Saskatchewan. And Olivia is going to confirm this later today, but somewhere just above 14% of our students now are coming from more than 100 countries around the globe. So we're proud of these numbers. They demonstrate what diversity and gathering diversity means to us as a theme. Together with our federated college partners, Campion, Luther, and First Nations, we have a strong commitment to the university's historic roots in the liberal arts. We're expanding our offerings in this area, and I'll give you an example of that. The PPE, the Philosophy, Politics, and Economics undergraduate degree, was launched about 2 years ago. Jim Farney and some of our colleagues are in the room who are involved in that, and that has proven to be very successful, modeled on some of the offerings in places like Oxford. The Master of Journalism degree was launched several years ago, and it is the first of its kind to be offered on the Canadian prairies. Well, let me turn to Congress itself. For the first time, we believe the Big Thinking Lecture Series is all women, all female speakers, and let me just tell you who they are. Melina Labukan Massimo, who is a member of the Lubicon Cree First Nation and a strong voice against tar sands expansion. The very eminent historian Margaret McMillan, who's currently a professor at Oxford, but a Canadian. Ala Morabit, a noted champion for inclusive peace processes. Christiane Taubira, who is the former Minister of Justice for France and who introduced France's same-sex marriage law in 2013. Marie Wilson, again, very well-known journalist and Truth and Reconciliation Commissioner. These are our big thinking speakers. We're very proud of that lineup, and proud, again, as we believe, to have a lineup that is, for the first time, all female. In other programming, very briefly, our Faculty of Arts, we're delighted to say, has confirmed the Canadian academic who delivered the Massey Lectures earlier this year, Jennifer Welsh, who comes from Regina, is a proud Saskatchewanian, now gone on to a fantastic academic career in Europe. She will be here. There's planning underway for Francophone events through La Cité Universitaire that we have here on campus, and reconciliation event planning is also underway. Patty, whom I introduced a few moments ago, is working with committees and colleagues in this room to ensure that hospitality, food services, audiovisual, and all of the other logistics arrangements, which are very complex and very detailed, are in place, and that everything works flawlessly, and that no one complains about any of the food. If we accomplish that, we will have accomplished a miracle. We're partnering with local businesses and stakeholders to ensure success, and let me just give an example of that. City Council, Patty, voted on Monday night to give us a pretty good run at the city transit system during Congress. A little story there. When the Congress committee came from Toronto to evaluate our bid and a site visit, they visited a number of people, including the mayor. And Mayor Fougere said to them at that point, we'd be happy to make the transit system available to delegates of Congress. And after the site visit team left, the city manager pulled the mayor aside and said, Your Worship, you don't have the authority to do that. City Council has to vote for it, and they did it the other night. So that's a major plus. And it's just one example of the partnerships that have been underway for 2 years and that are now intensifying with Tourism Regina, the Hotel Association, the Restaurant Association, the city, the provincial government, the Mackenzie, and so many other bodies and institutions in the city. So to conclude, Regina has a history of very successfully hosting very large events, the Grey Cup, the North American Indigenous Games, the Juno Awards, and we are confident that Congress 2018 will not only be added to that list, but will be a particularly notable success. Thank you to each and every one of you, because when it is that success, it will be largely, if not almost wholly, up to you. Thank you so much for your contributions, and have a great day.
Bonjour et bienvenue à tous et à toutes. Bienvenue à Regina. Good morning and welcome. I'm André Magnan. I'm the academic convener for Congress 2018. And of course, I'm just as excited about Congress as all of you, and I want to just thank everyone for being here this morning. I'd like to thank our wonderful partners at the Federation. They are the steady hand that guides us through the Congress process. We have been meeting with them steadily for a few days now, and we're learning, of course, all the nuts and bolts of putting Congress together. I feel that we're in very, very good hands, and we have a wonderful working relationship, so I thank you very much for being here. I'd also like to thank members of the various U of R departments, AV services, facilities management, and many others who are really integral to the planning process. These are the folks that will keep campus running. They will keep campus clean, that will be serving and preparing our food, and they have a really, really very important role to play in Congress. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank everyone who has stepped up to be a local arrangement coordinator or program chair for your associations. We know that a lot of the heavy lifting for planning Congress falls to you. I'm involved in my own association, the Canadian Association of Food Studies. We've got a local arrangement committee, so I won't be doing all of that, but I'm like you, eager to learn about how we put the conference program together for our associations. This is really a very, very important job, and I am very pleased that you've all agreed to help with that important task. With your commitment and hard work, we are confident that we can host an intellectually enriching and one-of-a-kind Congress here in Regina. I look forward to working with you and our partners at the Federation in developing a programming that speaks to our theme, Gathering Diversities. En tant que responsable de programme et coordonnateurs locaux, vous contribuerez de façon indispensable au succès du Congrès 2018. As a Congress planning team, we have committed to making indigenization and reconciliation central to our academic and cultural programming. I'll be speaking a little bit later about some of the details of that programming. But at this moment, I wanted to tell you very quickly about two things. First of all, as other universities have done in recent years, the U of R is developing an Indigenous protocol guide that will be useful to you as organizers in your associations. The guide will include some advice on territorial acknowledgements, on protocol, on smudging, facilities and protocol on campus. And that guide is currently under development. It is being developed in partnership with the Indigenous Advisory Circle on campus. And we hope to have that ready later this fall for your reference. Secondly, I want to tell you about a very special guest that we have invited to be with us today. Life speaker Noel Starblanket, who is a very well-known and respected elder in our community, will be joining us later. He was unable to be here first thing this morning, but we were able to reach him, and he will be joining us around lunchtime. So we look forward to welcoming him at that time. And he will be here to tell us about the important history and present-day reality of living on Treaty 4 territory. So we look forward to having live speaker Starblanket join us a little bit later today. I think that's all for my remarks this morning. We're going to proceed with the planning session, and I'd like to just turn it over to Laura. Thank you very much.
So are we ready for all of the details that you're going to go through? Exactly. Well, we'll start off with a few introductions, as Dr. Chase and Gabe and Andre has indicated, to host Congress 2018 in the University of Regina. It takes many, many people. And so we'll start with the team from the Federation. As I mentioned earlier, my name is Laura Chakowski, and I'm the acting manager of Congress and Events. With me today, and I'll just ask the team to stand up and take a wave. We have Gowrie and Nicola. And a part of our Congress events team, we have Lindsay, Donna, and Ashley. And back in the office, we have another 8 individuals who support the event called Congress 2018. So you're well looked after, and lots of folks available to help. Now, what I would like to do is introduce Patty to the stage and ask her to introduce everyone.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome again to, as you've seen over the past, well, definitely this week, but also you'll see over the next year, it's not just me. We have a huge planning team that comes together, and some of us are in the office as staff. We've employed some of our students throughout the next year as well and they're right on campus. So first of all, we have Laura Guzik, who is our full-time volunteer coordinator. So you might see her tapping on people's shoulders. Laura, you gonna stand up? No, you gotta stand up. Saying, do you need volunteers help during Congress? And we'll be happy to help you there. We have 3 logistics coordinators. Taylor Rush, who's actually gone to class now. She's one of our 5th-year science students. And then we have Megan Pierce and Lindsay Patton as well, who are here in the audience. If you guys want to stand up as well, give a wave. If you see these faces around, they're the ones that are knowledgeable and know what we're doing. We also have Andre Magnan, our academic convener, in our office, and we're here to help you, and we welcome you all to campus. And if you have questions, that's awesome. Bring them on. We can handle it. So as well as, I don't have a picture of everybody else, but there's logistics people galore across campus. So we have some team leads with audio-visual or information services, food services, residents, as well as across with events, U of R programming, cultural programming, community connections programming. So there's leads across there, and we have a number of them in the audience today, and I want you to stand. Rohan, you have to stand. And I just want to say a huge thank you to everybody as well that's part of those planning teams in the audience. Kelly, I don't see you standing. Come on. And it takes a big team, and are part of our U of R family to bring Congress together. So we look forward to working with you, as well as the Federation too, for sure. Thanks, guys.
And as Gabe had mentioned, we have members from Congress 2019 here with us, and they've already did a wave, but we appreciate you coming and sharing with us your time. And it's, as Patty said, there's a big family. Well, the last 2 days, I would say now, between the Federation and the University of Regina, it is one big family. And we're really looking forward to working with all of the teams here at the university. So the next portion of our program is to introduce the planning guide. So Lindsay Denbour will be taking us through the planning guide. She will be actually moving you through page through page through page. So I'll ask that you bring out your textbooks, please, and and take notes down in the corners. The planning guide is a help menu for you to understand exactly what is required through our planning process. At the very front of the book, you have some key timelines and deadlines. And I'll now just ask Lindsay to take the mic, and she'll now walk you through the planning guide, and enjoy.
So you'll have to give me a minute. As you can tell, I'm the shortest of the group, so I've got a little helper here. All right. So, as Laura mentioned, we'll just be going through the planning guide today. It's quite a large document, has a lot of information in there, but it's going to be your best friend by the time you're done with Congress. And there's actually going to be a few other people that'll come up and go through parts of that planning guide that are their subject matter expert, but I'll take you through sort of the registration and logistics pieces. So, as a PC or a program chair or an LAC, a local arrangements coordinator, you are key to your association's programming and planning during Congress. You are the main link between your association members as well as between the Federation and the host university. So it's an important role. If you're not already familiar with your fellow PCs and LACs within your association, we really encourage you to introduce yourselves to each other so you know who your team members are and how they can help you going through this process. On page 4 of your guide, it outlines the various tasks that you're responsible for completing as organizers for your association. How you divide the responsibility of those tasks between PC and LAC is something you probably want to take some time to consider within your team members and your association planning groups. These are things like reviewing the weekly emails, planning and logistics, the meetings rooms, the catering, the AV, communicating to your members about Congress details. We'll tell you a lot of things that we'll need you to pass on to your members so that they have that information as well. Obviously, completing all the tasks by the deadlines that are handy in your planning guide there. Participating in monthly countdown calls, which we'll talk about in just a minute. Those are an opportunity to get more information, just like this meeting right now. And also providing feedback on post-Congress surveys and going through that invoice system post-Congress. So pulling together 66 association conferences this year under the same Congress umbrella requires the involvement of everyone. We have to get everyone on the same schedule to register, book rooms, catering, AV, to make it smooth and seamless for everyone involved. On page 5 and 6 of your guide, this timeline is identified by task, so you're able to see each deadline and action items that you need to be completing through this process. To make things convenient, it's flipping pages a little bit, but on the inside cover, there's an actual checklist. So as you're going through the process, you can check off the tasks so you know what you've done. So there's a variety of tools that we'll provide to you to make sure that you have all the information you need to plan your conference. And on pages 7 through 9, we'll be going through a couple of these. One in particular is the Association Data Overview, and you should have all received that paper document when you arrived at registration today. It's a document that gives you a whole bunch of metrics and statistics on past 3 years of your association's conferences, so you have all that data available to you that you can use when you're planning your conference this year. It goes through administrative details, sort of your Congress account, your association name, acronym, those sorts of things, but also total registrations per year for each of those 3 years, revenue and logistics expenses, so you can get an idea of budgeting, conference fees that have been charged for your association for the last 3 years, and the number of room requests that have been made. So if you're trying to figure out, because not everyone has their program done by the time we ask for the room requests, that will give you an idea of where you need to know. Last year we needed 3 medium rooms, and the year before we needed 4, so it gives you a range there. And last on that document is the contact information for past PCs and LACs, and that will help you if you need to reach out to someone, you've got a question, they've done it before, so use that resource if you have questions, and of course ask anyone on the planning teams for the Congress. As an example of that document, just so you can see what we're talking about there, up on the screen is just a highlighted piece of the registration numbers. So we know that not always are you aware of how many people register on site, because you have access to all the data before the conference actually starts. But there's a number of people that register on site because the associations have the ability to register all the way up until the last day of Congress. So this will give you an idea of how many numbers you can potentially project for your conference this year. So another key tool for you for Congress is the Congress 2018 website. That's both for yourselves as organizers and the attendees. So I'm sure if you've attended Congress before, you're well aware of the Congress website for the public version. There's also, as you can see in the corner there with the red arrow, the organizers portal. And that's going to have a whole bunch of information accessing tools and resources, the Congress request system, all of that stuff that you're going to need to know. So within that portal, you can see here, this is actually a screenshot of the badges that are available in the portal. So you have the tasks and forms. That's actually an electronic and interactive copy of the tasks and forms you need to go through for this process. And then you have access to the request system, which we'll talk about in a little bit. A whole page of reference documents. That's where your catering and AV menus will show up. Any document that we might come up with during the process of Congress that you say, actually, we kind of need that information, we'll put it together and we'll put it there so you have access to it and everyone can see the same information. Also on that organizers portal is branding, logos. If you want to be able to use the Congress logo, which we'll talk about later, that is downloadable on the organizers portal. And any information about programs and events and the countdown to Congress meetings, which we'll talk about, all of that information and agendas is also available on the organizers portal. So the Congress request system, that's going to be a very large piece of what you're working towards with your tasks and deadlines, because all of the forms and requests for catering, AV, rooms, all of that is managed through this Congress request system. It's important to note it's a request system only. It's not an event management system, so it might not do everything you're expecting it to do, but it gathers all that information and it allows both the Federation and the host university to access it in real time so we know what you're looking for and we can communicate with you in one central system. And it's important also to note it's the only system you should be using for all of your needs. So it's critical that you use that system. And I know that may seem like an obvious thing, but however, there are some associations in the past who have gone outside of that system to request services or to request rooms, and it's caused a little bit of sticky situations because we don't necessarily know about it, and then we can't help support you in your conferences on site during Congress. So while this system consolidates all of your requests into one space, it also feeds that information to not only the Congress planning teams for the university, but also their various departments. So a lot of those people that Patty had stand up earlier, they're accessing that information. So you want to make sure that you can give them the best data that you can and incorporate it all into that one system. So almost every task will be available in the Congress request system. There are a couple that are external, but we link them through the system so it's easier for you to find. So this is just a listing of all the different tasks that can go through that system. I know it's a long list. It's also in your planning guide there, so don't worry that you don't have that screenshot for you. So when you log into the request system, and this screenshot's also in your planning guide there, you'll see this dashboard. It has 4 main sections, and those of you who may have used it before will see there's a little bit of difference this year. So the top section gives you information on your association, similar to what you would find in your association data overview we talked about. That gives you your association account, information on your conference dates, whether you're a member of the Federation, that sort of administrative details. And then on the report section on the left, this is when you're looking at the screen, not necessarily here, that's where you pull all the data for your requests. So that's any information on current rooms or AV or catering requests that you've made, as well as all the information about your registration systems. So if you want to know the number of registrations you have by type, or even the contact information, that information, you have several different options to pull that registration information. And then on the form section on the right is where you would complete all those tasks that are in your handy checklist. So there is a legend at the bottom there. If the box is blank, it means you haven't submitted the form. If the box is green with check mark, it means you have. If it's orange, it means that you have completed it but not submitted it. And that's an important distinction because although the information, you can see it in the front end, we can't necessarily see it in the back end until you hit that submit button. So make sure that you're hitting that submit button when you're ready to submit it to us. And there's also external forms that will be available there. We'll talk about those later. And that's just that sort of web icon with the arrow, so you're aware that you may be leaving the request system and have to come back. And then at the bottom section, that's the section for rooms and event requirements, so that's your catering, AV, and furnishings, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Also, one important thing to note is at the very top right corner of the dashboard when you log in, there's a link to your personal profile details. So if your information has changed or we happen to have a misspelling in your name, you can change it there. Just click on the Edit Profile button and you'll be able to make whatever changes you need to do. You can also do this at the top of any form, and you'll see that when you have logins to the request system. So to access to the request system, that's the organizers portal that we looked at earlier. You just click on the Congress Request System badge, and the request system will be available to you. You'll put in your username and password, and those passwords and usernames will actually be coming to you later today. You'll get your first email from us, and those emails are weekly. You'll get 2 today, your start of the weekly emails, and your emails specifically for you for your usernames and passwords. So speaking of weekly emails, we're moving on to section 1.4. The emails will be sent every Thursday, so you can expect them in your inbox every week. And it's got really important details about task deadlines or updates that we need to share with you if there's something that has changed, reminders, calendar invites for meetings that we might be having, and valuable information that you might need to share with your members. This year, actually, we will also be archiving emails, so if you're clogging up your inbox and you can't read them right away and you want to backtrack and look at something that came through the month before, we'll have an archived page on the organizers portal of all the emails that have been sent. So it's important to note that we want to make sure you get these emails. So when you get back to your offices, it's a good thing to do to have your IT team whitelist these emails right here. You'll be receiving emails from organizers@ideas-day.ca, and also when registration starts going, you'll get emails from congress@ideas-day.ca. So just take those. Those emails are in the back, I think it's page, I'm not sure of the page number at the moment, but it's section 7.0 in contacts. Those email addresses are there, so you can take that information to your IT team if you're worried that you might not get those emails. So moving on to section 1.4.5, this is the monthly countdown to Congress calls. So these have been in place for about 4 years now, and they're an opportunity for in-person questions and about specific topics, similar to what we're doing today, but in a shorter amount of time. They're usually about 1 hour. It happens on campus because we know a lot of you are local, so you can come during those times and are able to connect with us. We'll go through some of the details about specific deadlines that are coming up, and also an opportunity to connect with the university team if you have specific questions about them and you really just need a conversation rather than going back and forth by email. And the also option, if you're not local to Regina, there will be teleconference abilities to sign into those meetings and participate by phone. And we'll send all those details to you as part of the weekly emails. So the discussion topics for the Countdown to Congress meetings, they do vary per month, and you can expect any of the task deadlines or task action items that you have to be discussed in these calls, such as requesting rooms and how to do that, tips for developing your conference program, managing your conference registrations, updates on programming from either the university or the federation if we've got new things happening, and also going over some of the administrative association accounts and billing processes, etc. So the dates and times for your Countdown to Conference meetings are included in your planning guide there. You'll note this year, if you've attended any in the past, what we've done from feedback from you is change the time. So it's not the same time every month. It varies. So that way, if you're teaching a class at a specific time within a semester, you have the option that you may be able to connect with us on the next month when the time will change. So these are listed on page 9 of your planning guide. So take a note of those, and if you want to insert them into your calendar now, that way you know when they're coming up. So on page 10 and 11 of your guide, you'll find the draft association conference schedule. We've already identified changes to that schedule than what's in your planning guide there, because we have 2 new associations joining us for Congress 2018 that just happened within the last week. So there's actually 66 associations for Congress 2018 in Regina, which we're really excited about now. So check your conference dates in there and make sure they're correct. If there's any errors or you have questions about it, email us and let us know. And also check the date of your president's reception, which we'll talk about a little bit later. That's the R. If there's a check mark and an R beside your association, that's the date that has been assigned for your association to attend the president's receptions. So moving on to section 2.2 about financial information. Each association has been attributed a specific Congress account, and that actually matches to your association account with the Federation. And we'll be able to collect fees for you, be able to manage all of your requests, all within that one association account, so we know what's happening and are able to easily track your expenses and your revenues. You'll also be able to use these accounts with the university services. So the catering and AV will go through the request system, but there's other things like printing services. If you have programs that you want to be able to print in advance of Congress, you can use your association account to do that and not have to pay up front. So those details we'll share with you in the weekly emails. And after Congress, when all the invoices are received from the university, the Federation will compile all of these expenses and revenues, and will send them to you in a statement, so you'll be able to review them and see everything that has gone on during the Congress process, and confirm that everything's correct, and that's how we'll manage that either statement or invoice to you, depending on whether your registration revenues exceeded or were a little bit less than your expenses. So signing authorities is also an important piece of the financial system, and these individuals are identified in the association signing authority form, and that's in the Congress request system. And whoever you decide within your association, you'll need to talk to each other and determine who you want to make a signing authority for 2018. And you'll fill out that form with their name and contact details so that we're aware they have been authorized to expense things to your account and to be making charges within the conference request system. Signing authorities can also authorize charges on site. So if there's something that you need to do last minute, that would also need to be run through the signing authorities. And the deadline for that form is on October 13th, so that's something you're going to want to be thinking about fairly soon. So moving on to registration fees, that's section 2.4.1. The fees are broken down into 2 different categories, and that's the Congress fees and your association conference fees. And the payment of both of these fees is mandatory for all attendees. That's including speakers, presenters, panelists, administration, PCs, LACs, managers, organizers, even people just chairing or attending a session. Everyone does have to pay the Congress and your association conference fees, so just be aware of that. And there is sort of some rules and regulations that go along with that. The Federation does have the authority to choose associations that may have not had their members pay the Congress fees, and if there's some excuse me there, my notes are doing something strange here. If there's some discrepancies between the association's registrations and what we have in the Congress system, we will need to have a discussion with you and sort of figure out where that discrepancy lies. So in terms of how to register, everyone does need to register through the Congress registration system for the specific association that they are participating in, and that's more than one association if they are attending 2 associations or more. And this includes also any association affiliates or subgroups that you have that are meeting under your association umbrella. So registration fees, every year you're going to need to have non-registered, excuse me, you're going to have non-registered Congress attendees causing a significant loss of revenue that can result in increased registration fees overall. So So please make sure that you're communicating either through your own emails or on your website, letting your members know that they need to go through the system and be paying both of those fees. So for Congress fees, those have been set for 2018. It's not increased since last year. Those numbers are in your guide there. It's just GST charge this year because we are in Saskatchewan, so that's a difference from the previous years. And there's an early bird fee prior to March 31st and a regular fee as of April 1st. So that's the key date that you want to make sure that you communicate to your members, get them to register before March 31st because it will be a lower fee there. And those fees there are outlined on page 15 of your planning guide. So for registration fees, specifically the association conference fees, each association is responsible for setting your own conference fees, and you'll want to look at your projected expenses and number of potential registered attendees to sort of figure out where you want to set those fees, and obviously have a discussion with your associations as your rules and regulations are needed. You're encouraged to keep the conference fee fairly simple. We do have a sort of outlined categories that are available in the Congress request system when you're putting in your fees, and those will appear on page 15 of your planning guide. And those fees do need to be established and submitted through the Congress request system by October 13th. So it's another one that you're going to want to start thinking about fairly soon. So to help you determine your fees, that association data overview is helpful information on metrics, knowing what your registration numbers were in previous years, what fees you were charged, expenses, revenues, and actually the fees that were assigned for your association conference for the past 3 years. So you can get an idea of what the average is. And make sure when you're doing your budgets that you're factoring on all those expenses. So that's catering, AV, printing, don't forget about speaker costs, special events, off-site venues, and even printing your program. So there are a few rules and regulations that come along with the setting of registration and going through the registration process. And that's that registration fees cannot be charged nor functions added as of when registration opens in January. It's really difficult to have someone registering at price X, and then a couple weeks later, if you find that you needed to change a price specifically for banquets, that they would then have to be charged a different price. So keep that in mind when you're coming up with your prices, even for banquets. Try to think of all the options so that we don't have to go through that process of changing fees after registration opens. And the use of other commercial, external, or registration systems, sign-up forms, that is prohibited. We need everyone to be able to go through one system because it causes confusion for your attendees if they're registering in the main Congress and association fees here, and then a different event or pre-conference workshops there. So everything does need to go through the Congress request system. And if you have pre-conference workshops, just email us, let us know, and we'll work through with you to get that information into the system as well. So another important thing to note is that your association fees do not include your membership fees. So if you're trying to come up with your conference fees, don't be including your membership fees within there because it's not within the same system. It's the association's responsibility to make sure they're looking through and ensuring that although they registered as a member, whether they are members, because the membership system that you may have in your association and our Congress registration system don't necessarily talk to each other, so we can't do that verification. So how to register? It's an online portal. It's really fairly simple. It's safe, secure, and fast. Opens in January, usually early January, and that's when we get a lot of traffic on the website. So you can expect that everything will be up to date on that website for registration opening. So moving on to registration reports. Those are also available in the Congress request system. It's part of the reports screenshot that I was showing earlier. And you have the ability, as I said, to pull reports in real time. It's real-time information of as things are registered and able to see who's registered, what they've registered for, what type, the member, and all of that data. So you're going to want to pay attention to those lists, monitor them fairly regularly, so you're able to see, as we said, if they're members or non-members, if their membership status is active. So you have all that information at your fingertips. So badge monitoring is also another important piece. This is further down the line when you're on site at Congress, but it's an important piece to consider because it does influence whether you're getting the revenues for your association conferences if people are coming into your conference and not necessarily registered for your association. So on page 16 of your guide, you also have these screenshots that will show you what a badge would look like if they're registered for your conference and what it would look like if they're not. So you can see on the purple badge here, it's pretty small up on the screen, it's better in your planning guide. It will have the association acronym if it's registered for your conference, and a black bar if they are not registered. And also what can happen is they may have an acronym, but it may not be your association's acronym. So just keep an eye on things, try to do it as much as you can. Obviously it's a big job, so you don't expect you're going to catch everyone. But it's important that you keep an eye on those things as you can so that you can make sure that you're maximizing your revenue and offsetting the costs. You don't want more people taking your catering that you've not ordered for and don't have those revenue to bring back those expenses at the end of Congress. So complimentary passes is also another form that you can fill out in the Congress request system, and that is registration passes that you can use. They're complimentary. You have a certain number depending on how many registered attendees you had the year prior, and that information is in your Congress, in your planning guide there. So member associations only are the ones that would receive these complimentary passes for that limited number of people based on your association. And on the organizers portal, there will be a list of exactly the number that is attributed to your association, and that will be on the reference documents page. So a number of these passes are granted, and it's up to your discretion of how you want to use them. You can allocate them to speakers, guests, organizers, yourselves, presidents, administrators, etc. So that's up to you how you want to use those passes. But you do need to make sure that when you decide that you're using them, that you fill out that form in the Congress request system so that we know who they are. So that brings us to sort of the logistics of using those passes. The attendees would not register through the normal registration system. We would take that information manually, do it in our back end, and make sure that the confirmation of registration would go out to them. So once we receive the information from you, that deadline is February 23rd, then we would be able to register those individuals and send them their confirmations. So international invitees, I know there's a couple of associations that do have a fairly large contingent of international attendees. The Congress website and the organizers portal does have links to various Citizenship and Immigration Canada information that you'll want to know. There's an email confirmation that comes from the Federation once you're registered. It's not considered a formal or official representation of an invitation to participate. It's just strictly a receipt, so they wouldn't be able to use that for visa purposes. However, there is resources that we've made available to you that will allow you to tap into the information that Citizenship and Immigration Canada has available. So if you are looking for a lot of attendees to be coming, you can actually go on to the Citizenship and Immigration Canada website, and you'll be able to find their letter of invitation, and you'll be able to see what information you need to include for those letters of invitations that you would need to create for your speakers or your attendees. In addition, if you're expecting a large contingent, you can register your association conference with CIC, and that would be with their special events unit, and that will allow you to have a group code that you can give to your attendees for visa purposes, and it speeds things up. So from there, I'm actually going to turn it over to Gauri Srinivasan, and she's going to speak to you about some funding support opportunities.
I always wanted to stand on a soapbox, but I think it'll be too much. How y'all doing? So, oh, I didn't forward the. Where's the clicker, my love? Is that my slide? So the thing that we want to talk to you about today is some of the funding that we have. And I think it's really about the Federation putting our money where our mouth is. The major opportunity, really, of this fabulous event that we call Congress is how it actually enables really important opportunities for exchange, both between ideas and between people across disciplines. It's such a unique Canadian gathering, and actually internationally it's rare enough that Congress also provides a super important kind of platform and opportunity for international exchange. It's both a great time for international scholars to come and get the most Canadian bang for their buck, and it's a great time to showcase our talent and research to international scholars. And the opportunity of Congress is also our major public event to showcase the value and role of the humanities and social sciences. I think what we have found, and maybe you have this experience too, is that without intentional planning, though, to make the most of Congress in those three ways, it's really easy for us to come to Congress, just stay in our own bubble, just talk to philosophers or just talk to women's studies and go home because we're super busy, and that's pretty fun in and of itself. But we want to challenge you, we want to encourage you to make the effort to think about how to make the most of the platform across all those options. And so for those that make the effort, the Federation is keen to back your efforts with pretty concrete supports to facilitate moving your ideas for interdisciplinary exchange and international exchange to action. So who is available to access these two funds? Yep. Okay, that's fine. The only associations who can access them are those that are officially participating in Congress, because from time to time some associations don't make it to Congress. They don't get to apply for funds. And you have to be a Federation member to apply to these funds. The where that you apply for funding for these two funds is online via the Congress request system that Lindsay has just been giving an overview of all this time. So let's look at each of them a little bit in turn. International Keynote Speaker Support Fund. So many of your associations asked for this. So we answered. We've changed the application deadline, moved it back a little bit to December 1st. We know a lot of the associations were concerned they didn't have all their ideas together yet for that earlier November deadline. But we're also conscious that for looking for international speakers to attend requires a little more lead time. It sometimes involves a visa. It certainly involves longer planning for travel. So it's now December 1st for the submission deadline. And that hoping that the answers will come to you in January when you apply to that fund, so you'll be able to have get a jump on the opportunity to actually invite them. It is a competitive fund, so it does mean we sometimes have to make tough choices. Applying to the fund does not guarantee that your association will get it. And also to think about then when you're applying that we will try and take account of the distance and travel costs involved in who you're asking to come to in looking at the amount that we provide for you. So we're trying to give coverage to all, but recognizing that people who are looking to bring a speaker from Brazil face different financial challenges than those looking to invite up an American speaker. We also just want to encourage you to go big with this. Think about how an international keynote would provide an extra value added to attract your members to attend your conference, and think about how an international keynote could be of interest to scholars outside your discipline. So thinking again in your applications about what is broad audience appeal, what could appeal to the public. There's a little bit of fine print, there always is. You can only apply as an association for one grant per Congress. You can be a collaborator on others. So if you want to make the case, you should really fund us political science because history has told us they're interested and sociology is interested. So if you bring this international speaker, there'll be a lot more people coming. That really works for us as we assess it. But you can only be the lead applicant for one and only receive one grant. The actual monies come to you after the event. So you will need to fill out a post-event report that, again, we've moved that deadline back a little bit in response to some of your requests. It's July now, not right away in June, right after Congress, but you just let us know how many people came, how it went, that it actually happened, and then the funding comes to your association in the summer. The last hitch, but it's really all about the original objectives for the fund, is that any event supported through these Federation funds with an international keynote, that's an event that you need to make open to the public and to all associations. The fine print for aid for interdisciplinary is very similar, so I won't go after that one. But just thinking a little bit about what is the international or interdisciplinary support fund, it really was encouraged to, it was established to encourage and support interdisciplinary exchange, which is such an important part of our humanities and social science traditions. So in this way, we're encouraging associations to work together. You can't be a solo applicant for aid for interdisciplinary. You have to have at least 2 or more. And we're really looking to provide support for events that kind of showcase how different disciplinary traditions can explore an issue. So we're going to be more favorable and look at stronger awards for those applications that really demonstrate a cross-disciplinary an idea. So for example, if you're a one kind of literature group and you apply with another kind of literature group and you say, well, we're two associations working together, you're eligible to apply because you're working together, but you might be competing against others who have submitted with a much a more kind of a genuine interdisciplinary exchange. So do think about that. We'd also really encourage you to think about how working with a partner group could draw the public. So it's not always possible, but thinking about all the interesting opportunities in Regina to bring in a community association, or maybe there is a nonprofit group or a business, someone that would be interested to explore a session with you, and then their audiences and their members can be drawn in. That would also be super useful information to include in your application, because we're trying to support events that can bring in the public as well as interdisciplinary exchange. And now it's Andre's turn.
Thank you very much. So first of all, I'd like to tell you about a really exciting initiative that we have developed for Congress 2018. Many of you, I think, have heard of this already, but we have a few more details to share with you this morning. So this initiative is the Graduate Student Travel Awards. And through this program, we are offering subsidies of up to $500 towards accommodation in residence here on campus, meal cards, and also a gift card to the U Regina bookstore to any graduate student who is presenting their research at Congress 2018. So we're very proud to be offering this. We hope that it will be of assistance to students who otherwise might not be able to afford to come to Congress. We count on you to share this information with your members and make sure everyone knows about it. There will be 3 different categories of award. One for graduate students who live outside of Regina. I think we've set the limit at about 100 kilometers outside of Regina, so grad students from elsewhere. We are setting aside a certain number of awards for local graduate students. We will be helping them out with association registration fees and a meal card and so on. We won't be providing residence because, of course, they're from here. And we are also reserving a number of these awards for recent graduates of a PhD program who have yet to secure full-time work. So these are people who would have graduated, I think it's after June 1st, 2016 and are presenting their research at Congress and are yet to find secure work, whether in academia or in another line of work. So we're really very proud to be offering these awards. We will have some more details for you about deadlines in the weeks to come. We anticipate that the first deadline will be in early December, and then there will be some other information that applicants will need to submit as they go along. Proof of acceptance, for example, proof of registration in Congress, but we're still working out some of those administrative details. There you go. I said I got way ahead of myself. So these are just some more details on the awards. How do I advance, Lindsay? Oh, the clicker. Yeah, we've got two. Sorry, we've got two systems going here. Okay.
All right, thank you to both Andre and Gowrie for giving us the subject matter experts on those. So we're moving on now to section 3.0, logistics. So that's on page 18 of your planning guide if you're following along. So requesting meeting rooms. This is one of your major deliverables. It's a pretty hefty job. It does take up a lot of brain power to sort of figure out how you want to do that. So we're here to help with that. We'll go through some of this, but there's also some extra tips in your guide there. So every year you're responsible for submitting a room request for each meeting space per day that your association requires on campus for Congress. This includes rooms for plenary sessions, breakouts, workshops, board meetings, executive meetings, AGMs, all of that stuff. Anything that you need to happen on campus, it would go through that Congress request system. So some important pieces about the system we touched on a little bit earlier. The Congress team at the University of Regina and at the Federation are not able to support your conference events if your requests haven't been made through that system, because we won't know that it's happening or where you are or what you have in that room or when you need to be there. So it's where, how, and the only way that you need to make your requests for rooms listed or identified in that Congress request system. And this is basically to make sure that we can deliver those services to you and can support you if there's anything that happens on site. So room requests are not created automatically. It's not based on what happened last year or what your conference dates are. It's specifically something that you would have to manually enter into the system based on what you anticipate your needs will be. And the important thing to note is that rooms should be booked by block of time needed, so preferably by day. So you can see in the example here, it's also on page 18 of your guide. If you have multiple things happening and you need that all to be in the same space, say you have an opening session and a breakout session and then sort of a reception in the evening, but you all want it to be in that same space, you would just make one request for a room. If you have a simultaneous session, say breakout 2, that you need a separate room for, it's happening at the same time, but a smaller period of time. In the example here, it says that breakout session is happening from 2 until 5. So you would make a second room request for just that 2 until 5 when you need that additional room in the system. So you wouldn't necessarily be booking a room every time you have a breakout session or a opening session. It would all go through that one system, that one booking. It will make it easier both on yourselves later in the process and on the university, because they'll know not to book session A in room XYZ and session B, which is following directly after, in a separate room. Excuse me, give me a moment here. So room requests are due by November 10th. That's the deadline that you have. So you have actually from today, as soon as you get your request, until November 10th to add that information into the Congress request system. You can see on the side here sort of an overview of the information that you'll be putting into that request. It's the time of day that you need it, the type of room you're looking for, if you need an accessible room because you anticipate people with accessible needs in that room, any information that you can provide, specifically if you're bringing in extra furnishings or you have a large poster board exhibit you want in that room, any information will help the university find the most appropriate room for you. So don't be afraid of putting too much information in there. Everything will help. So although every effort is made to give you the specific space you're looking for, it's not necessarily that you'll be able to get every special request you're looking for, because the university is dealing with up to 1,200, 1,400 room requests in the system. So there's a lot of rooms, as actually Gabe was mentioning earlier, up to 300 on a peak day that are happening. So it's a very large puzzle to make all of those rooms and find the best spaces and keep you close together within a building or within a floor. All of those things are taken into consideration. So when you put in your request, we will ask for your preference. If it's most important to be near another association, if it's most important to be near another event of yours, if it's most important to have specific room or space, or if there's a specific room that you're looking for, you can put in that information and we'll take it all into account and also factor in existing infrastructure and the most efficient use of space on campus to make sure that everyone has the best match that can be had. So on page 19 of your guide, there's a lot of extra tips. I won't go through all of them. They're there available for you to read. It's very useful information to read through those tips. It will save time going through the room request process if you're familiar on what you need to do. And of course, at any time, if you have questions, just send us an email and we'll help you out there. So room allocations, once the puzzle piece has been solved, and we know where your room request is going to go, that information will be put into the Congress request system by February 12th. So you'll have an idea of where those rooms are when you're developing your program, and you can insert that information into your program. The important piece, especially for you that are local to the Regina campus, is once you have confirmation of those rooms, it's recommended to send someone out and go check them out, and you'll work with Patty and her team to make sure that that availability and if there's pictures that they can share, any information that you have, so that when you're going through your programs and when you get into ordering catering and AV, which we'll talk about next, you have an idea of the size and layout and what's in that room and how you're going to be able to use it. It's also, remember, there's a number of reports that are in the Congress request system that will give you these details. So although you'll be able to see it on the dashboard of the request system, you'll also be able to have a report in Excel file that you'll be able to download and share with others. So furnishings and setup options, they are not necessarily all in the rooms. It would depend on the room type. If you're allocated a room that has movable furniture in there, the university would really appreciate some ideas of how you want to use that furniture. So a new section in the request system this year is specifically about furnishings and setup, and we will ask you what type of setup are you looking for in that room, so that information can be shared and everyone is on the same page and able to provide the best scenario and help you identify what furnishing needs you may need to request in addition. It's important to note that not necessarily would you be charged for all furnishings. The standard classroom setup, tables and chairs, that would become with the room, whether it's movable or not. However, if you're looking for additional furnishings, specifically head tables, or you need extra tables at the back of the room for promotional documents, or poster boards, lecterns, flip charts, that sort of thing, that would be something that you would have to request. And those will be on the AV and equipment furnishings menu that will be coming shortly. I actually just touched on that a little bit, that you need to request that. The deadline for that, though, is from February 26th. That way we give you a little bit of time to see your rooms before, if there's any changes or you have questions about the rooms, before you start making the requests. So from February 26th onward until April 6th is when you have the deadlines to make those requests for furnishings. It's also the same for catering and AV, which we'll touch on shortly. So audiovisual and equipment, as I mentioned, it's the same deadlines that you would be working with. The February 26th to April 6th would be the deadlines you have to enter that information into your room requests. So once the rooms are allocated, you'll be able to go in and say, okay, I've seen the room, I know that I actually need an extra projector and screen because we're going to have 2 PowerPoints going at the same time. So that information you would enter into the request system. It's itemized by item, so you would say I would need 1 extra projector, 1 extra screen, and the cost for that will show up on the AV and equipment menu that will be coming in the coming weeks. It's also important to note, however, that if there's equipment built into the room, and that's your standard presentation consoles with the computer and the screen or TVs and the projector, that does need to be requested. If you're local to the campus and you're used to just walking in and being able to use the equipment, it's not necessarily the same for Congress. There are charges, it's called the basic AV package, and that is technically added to all of your requests automatically. And what you'll need to do is make sure that if there's a room that you're not having AV in, you would take that request off, so you'd cancel it from the system, and then you would be able to have that room if it's just a room that you're having poster boards in and there's no AV requirements. But it is important to note that if you don't keep that request or add that request if you've deleted it previously, that you won't be able to use that equipment if you were expecting to on a normal day-to-day basis on campus. So we've touched a little bit actually on there. Any equipment that happens to be built into the room, you would need to make sure that you are requesting that through the system. So catering, moving on to section 3.3, it's important to note the same deadlines apply to catering. That's the February 26th through April 6th deadlines. And any food that you intend to have in your meeting spaces on campus is to go through the Congress request system. They have a lovely catering menu that they're working on for you to have all kinds of options for breaks and lunches, receptions, dinners. All of that will be available for you. So there's no outside food that would be allowed in any of the rooms on campus for the Congress duration. We have had, unfortunately, situations where associations have gone around that system, and there's been loss of revenue for the university. And we want to make sure that that is keeping the vibrancy of the community here in the university and keeping that revenue within the university. When you're making your requests in the request system, it will also be itemized by items that are available on the menu. You'll be able to see the prices. You'll pick the quantity of items that you need for that particular event. And if there's any special requests or information on ingredients or allergies that you have to be aware of, you would put that in the notes when you're making your request so that the catering team is aware when they're trying to create your orders, what they need to steer clear of for your orders. So as I've said, the catering prices and the menu will be coming in shortly in the next few weeks, so you'll have that information available. And on page 21, there's a slew of extra tips for you, so you'll be able to go through those and identify things that you might need to pay attention to specifically for your conference. So moving on to association greeting tables, and this is section 3.4. Every association has the opportunity to request a greeting table to be situated near your allocated meeting spaces. This can be used to distribute programs and other materials, just as a welcome table to greet your members if you want to say hello to them. It's also a key place if there's reporters or journalists interested in some of your session speakers. That's where we would direct them to, so they're able to find someone there and get information and perhaps book interviews with some of the session speakers. So greeting tables will consist of a 6-foot table with tablecloth and 2 chairs. One greeting table, if you choose to request it, would be complimentary. Charges would be applied for additional greeting tables at a rate of $15 per day. So if you decide that you need 2 tables in front of your space, then you would need to order 2 tables and pay for the extra one. If, however, you want to have 1 table in front of your session room and 1 in front of, say, reception room, that would also be 2 tables. It's 2 separate locations, so the same charges would apply. We do recommend, if you're going to order a greeting table, to put signage on your tables so that when the university is doing their work, they know specifically that that's your table, and that they don't need to worry about where it's going if you're sort of moving it just a few feet in front of the door on one side or the other. But keep in mind that you can't move it completely different locations, because otherwise we may not know where that table is. All of the locations are listed in the Congress Essentials Guide that go out to all of the attendees. So if we're directing them to CK 122 and you've moved it to CK 414, then we're giving the attendees the wrong information. We don't want them to get lost. Either way, the information on association greeting tables does need to be added into the Congress request system. So if you have a request that you would like to use those tables, you put that information into the form in the request system and identify what days you need it for and how many tables you're looking for, and then we'll work with you and the university will connect with you about locations. It is also important to note that those tables do have to be staffed. So association assistants, if you're looking to hire on assistants, those are a great opportunity, or if you have members of your association or volunteers within your association, as long as someone's always there. If someone is sent to the table and there's no one there, they'll be lost again, so we don't want them to get confused. So through the association or the Congress request system, as we've said, hiring association assistants is another option for you. That's something you would do through the system, and we would do that on your behalf. These assistants can be used for staffing your greeting tables or responding to inquiries from your association attendees, directing attendees if you're going from one session to the next and you just need someone showing them down the hallway. They can be available to sign for catering deliveries when you arrive on site and the food is being delivered and you're busy elsewhere, or even assisting on pre-conference days with setup or printing out of handouts, anything that you might need them for. There's an opportunity to hire these assistants. So the Federation would facilitate the hiring and payment process for you. So it's a hands-off process. All you would do would go into the Congress request system, enter the number of days you're looking for the assistant, if you have specific information on what that assistant would be doing, and you can also recommend an individual. So if you know that you want Sarah to help out at your association conference and you don't necessarily have the ability to pay her up front, you could recommend her. She would go through a separate system to be hired by us, and then we would match you together. So the rate for this would be $12 an hour. You can hire as many assistants as you like. You just submit that form in the request system by March 9th, and we will manage all the process and go through the training. The training hours are actually something that you wouldn't be charged for. We do train all of the association assistants, and that's a member benefit to you, so that you don't have to pay for their hours for training, but you benefit from them having all the information about Congress and its background. So next we move on to making your association meetings accessible, and this is section 3.6 in your guide. It's important to know ahead of time if you have attendees that are coming and have accessible needs. So what we do as part of the registration system is take that information from the attendees and have the ability to then share it back to you. So attendees can identify their accessibility needs as part of this process. It's based on what available provisions are on campus for the University of Regina. And once we have that list from your attendees, you would be shared that list back from us on a regular basis. We won't share it if there's nothing to share, but as soon as you have 1 or 2 requests, then we'll share on a regular basis as they are updated. So you have access to that information and can decide what you might need to do differently for your meetings. So the university will work with you as well. They get a copy of this list. There's certain things that they are providing and certain things that you may need to provide, such as if people are looking for alternative documents They can't have a printed document, they might need an electronic one. So that information will be relayed to you so you know what you need to contact those attendees with. However, it is important to note that if someone is requesting something that is not something that's available on the University of Regina campus on a regular basis, that would need to have a discussion with both yourselves at the association level and with the university to determine what could be done to facilitate that request. So on page 24 to 25 of your planning guide, there's additional helpful tips specifically about meeting spaces and how to have presenters present information. And there's also an accessible presentations document that we recommend that you share with your presenters so that they have all the information they need to make sure their presentations are accessible to your attendees. So on-site at Congress, that's section 3.7 of your guide. It's important that as soon as you arrive on site, you come to see us in the registration area of the Congress Hub, and that's specifically to the Solutions Desk, and you'll get reminders about this in your weekly emails. But the reason we ask you to do this is we provide a wealth of information about on-site logistics that you need to know, and specifically information on the Information Center, which we'll go to next. So that comes in an organizer's package for you that we have ready for you, and you pick up with your registration credentials. So you have all that information before you go to your first session, and if you need assistance, you have the information, contact details for us so that we can help you out. So speaking of the Information Center, it's essentially your one-stop point for information or help during Congress. We have a telephone hotline that you're able to call and tell us if there's something wrong in your meeting space, or if you think you forgot something in a catering order. We would connect. We have a large communications tree with a variety of different individuals at the university level departments that we connect with them and are able to help you and assist you, and it's a one-stop point of contact so you don't have to be contacting multiple people. So that phone number is in your organizer's package, which is why we want to make sure we see you at registration. You come in 8 months or 10 months' time. So now I will turn it over to Gauri Srinivasan. She's going to talk about some of the programming. As Dr. Chase already mentioned, the theme for the Congress and Congress 2018 is Gathering Diversities, and there's a particular number of Congress programming that is being created towards that theme.
The Congress program. We call it in this overview document for host universities a mosaic because we think of it as a conference of conferences. And I was thinking I need to find an image. There's too many words on these slides. How can I think of for a mosaic? And I was thinking about Byzantine Greek, Pieta kind of. And then I'm like, hello, there's a giant mosaic in front of me. This is not the logo. You'll get a lecture on this later. But it's actually a really important thing to remember, which is that done it in its best way, Congress is much more than the sum of its parts. It has multiple elements because it includes association programming, it includes federation programming, it includes host university programming. But altogether, it really creates a compelling public and political picture of the creativity, the value, and the contribution of humanities and social science scholarship. And it works, when it's done well, to build public support and to grow your membership's commitment to the life of your associations. And so although it has these three elements of association, federation, and host, we call federation and host university together Congress programming. Anything that's called Congress programming, just as a general rule of thumb, is free, and it's open to all registered attendees and the general public. Again, with the idea that we're trying to create the opportunity for people to explore the whole Buffalo and get the sense of it. There's actually a famous thing where people are only at one end and I think it's an elephant, right? And people are feeling, a whole bunch of blind men are in a room and they feel something and they think it's a rope, and somebody else feels something and they think it's a tree, and they haven't figured out that they're in the room with the elephant because they're only touching one part of it. So we want people as much as possible to have had the whole experience. Let me talk about a couple of key areas of Congress programming. I'm going to talk about big thinking, career corners, some of the reconciliation work, and then a little bit about partner programming that's coming. Big thinking, and Tom Chase gave us a nice overview this morning. Big thinking is really an opportunity for Congress to showcase top talent and big ideas, the importance of big ideas, the importance of university-educated, trained, and often scholars themselves to inspire and challenge Canada. The idea of the Big Thinking Lectures is that it provides an opportunity for events that both inspire and challenge your own members, and an opportunity to draw the public in to appreciate the work that humanities and social science faculties are doing. So it's really about appealing to diverse audiences. We want to think about how we might appeal to youth and students on campus and in Regina. We want to think about Francophone communities and your French-speaking members. And this year, as part of the Celebrating Diversities theme, we know Regina has challenged us in a great way to have the Big Thinking lineup really demonstrate the power of women's leadership as their diversity focus. So we think it's a really exciting thing, and we'd like you to help let your members know about it. The series is going to kick off really with kind of the face of Canada's future, our fastest growing population, First Nations, Métis and Inuit populations in Canada. Melina is a Lubicon Cree. She's a young Idle No More activist. She's from the prairies herself. Lubicon Nation has its own territory, but on the Alberta side, really focused on kind of moving to a green energy future and the importance of Indigenous territorial control. She's an incredibly dynamic speaker. I think she's exactly the right person to help us kick off Congress. It just says so much about our present and our future possibilities as a country. I want to draw your attention that our sixth speaker has been confirmed, Françoise Baylis, who is a Canada Research Chair. She's from Dalhousie University. She is a really compelling speaker, talks about the issues of modern technology and women's health and what are the key ethical dilemmas in moving forward for a modern health system. One of the things, we have this nice quote here from Congress organizers. I really enjoyed the series. People do like it, but they need time to get to it. So we need your support in this regard. We've placed it very specifically over the lunch hour, so it's not competing with the bulk of your programming, and we'd really encourage you to help us put big thinking in it. Many of the suggestions reflect input from associations. For example, Ala Murabit, who is one of Saskatchewan's most famous daughters now, and an incredible women's rights activist in the Middle East, came to us as a suggestion from social work. Is social work here today? There they are. Taking a mini pause from Regina, but just so you know this for your associations, if you have ideas for big thinkers that you think your members would be really keen on for UBC in 2019, we're really keen to know now. We'll be working with UBC to look at what that list might look like. We're really open to partnerships, ways to make big thinking part of your program. We almost landed a really interesting session on municipal leaders with political science last year for Ryerson, and in the end, Sadiq Khan decided not to come to Toronto, if you can believe it, the fabulous new mayor of London. But if you have an idea for something that you would like to host as follow-up sessions in yours, but that you know there's a speaker who would be big thinking caliber as well, please come talk to us. The last key thing that we really want to underline, in case there's any concerns out there, is that the Big Thinking Lecture Series is made possible from the generous support and sponsorship of the host university, thank you Regina, and also a whole series of external sponsors. So none of the costs to bring in these speakers, which can be substantial, is generated through Congress registration fees. These are not, it is entirely financed separately through Federation fundraising. We're asking you to ideally leave an hour and a half lunch break in the middle of your program to help facilitate this access. So career corners. Career Corners, many of you I hope are familiar with. It's really a series of professional development workshops. What we're looking for, and we work on this very closely with Andre and Patty with the host university, is sessions that offer practical tips and lessons for often grad students and younger scholars, but really some of the sessions are applicable to anyone. Some of the examples would be if you are looking to advance your academic career. So how do you get, if you one day might want to be a department head, or you might one day want to be a dean, we put together, you're all giggling, no. We put together panels for people to reflect on how they made that transition. We have sessions for people who maybe have done their PhD but haven't published a book yet on how to publish and market your scholarly research as a book. Lesson planning, there's a whole exciting array of ideas planned. I know that with their expertise, University of Regina is looking at organizing a session on indigenizing teaching, and we're also looking to work with associations, and I think Black Canadian Studies is here. We're looking to offer both a session on how to retain, both attract and retain Indigenous faculty, and how to attract and retain racialized faculty. So there's a lot of interesting content coming up for Regina relating to the important issues of equity and diversity in our community. Career Corner workshops are free. They're open to all Congress attendees. You might want to particularly make sure that your new members are aware of them, and we'd like you to include them in your guide. I'll just talk a little bit about reconciliation programming. I'm now in 4.1.6, Federation-led and partner programming. So we are interested really to co-design some open interdisciplinary events to help our community grapple with its interest to advance the process of reconciliation. We've had really successful sessions at Congress in Calgary and at Ryerson, ranging both from open dialogues among associations about how they're working in their discipline as a whole to more specific skill sets like pedagogy. We had a great session on reconciliation and pedagogy, which we co-did with the Association for Critical Pedagogy. So if your association is interested with ideas on what you think you'd like to see offered for all the associations, we'd really like to develop some workshops with you. The other option, in addition to contributing to kind of Federation broadly supported programming, is that if your association itself is running a session that you know both showcases the work that you're doing in your discipline on reconciliation and that you think would be of interest to others, please do, and you're committed to make it an open event. We've had this great practice in the last couple of years of associations being able to identify some of their programming as reconciliation themed. It's tagged in a special series on the website. We've had associations tell us that the traffic to their events on reconciliation has increased because it's been easy to find with a special icon and the special way to search it on the website. So you can either work with us to make sure we help you kind of showcase and advertise your reconciliation events, or work with us to co-design a broad workshop for the whole community. I know we're racing through all this, so you're just flipping. You keep all your questions for the end. You can ask on anything. The last session is just to say that in addition to the Federation working itself with members to create some broad programming across the whole Congress, there are a lot of national partner organizations that are very attracted to the space of Congress and keen to offer programming, and we provide some feedback to them on what they could offer. Major sponsors and supporters include, for example, of course, the granting agency, Social Science Humanities Research Council, MyTax, Sage Publishing House. Some examples of programming they would run, one of the most popular is the Shirk Storyteller Showcase. Has anyone here attended that or seen that? Yeah, got a couple of hands up. So this is their kind of like mini 3-minute thesis competition where they're running from student presentations all across the countries, ways to pitch why my research is relevant to Canada. And you have incredibly creative presentations from young scholars.
Last year there was one guy who did an entire like clowning act, but sometimes it's just a super creative PowerPoint presentation. But it's really fun competition and it shows some of the best and brightest coming up. So there's a range of other programming that happens at Congress that year members may be interested in. It's always advertised in the guide as this kind of open public programming, and it enables members of the public to know that there are some events they can come to that are just free and that they can access whatever day they show up. We can provide them an overview of what's available. So watch for these sessions, and the ones that might make specific sense to you, you can also include in your program. I remember last time Sage Publications ran a whole series in Expo Space on visualization, data visualization techniques, and sort of from advanced research methods, how do we visualize our research data, and sociology was doing a special session on the same. So these two things were linked together and co-advertised, and that was a great synergy. The last kind of programming thing I want to tell you about is the Federation's annual general meeting. So when we think about who is the Federation, it's you. This is a really important governance moment. It's also a free dinner. It's a nice dinner. It's a nice time to gather together at the Federation's annual general meeting. It's a really important moment where we ratify new members, and we have 2 that are joining this year, pending your ratification approval. Black Canadian Studies Association and the Centre for the Association of Public Administration. Also, the president of the board of the Federation, Guy Laforêt, usually does a kind of an overview of key issues that he sees going on in the community. So it's a really nice time to come together with your fellow colleagues. And that is going to be in the evening of Sunday, May 27th. So we hope to see you there. I'd like to invite Andre back up. He's going to talk a little bit about programming that the university is planning. There you go.
Thank you very much, Gowrie. So my task now is to tell you a little bit about the programming that we as a host university have been developing. And first of all, the series of events we're calling Community Connections for Congress 2018. The concept behind Community Connections is really to try and, first of all, showcase some of the wonderful work that the University of Regina does, that our scholars do, but also to show how that work is relevant to, important to communities beyond the university campus. So we've tried as best as possible to put together a series that really speaks to the diverse communities that make up Regina, Saskatchewan, and Canada as well. So we've got a little bit of a sneak peek of some of the events up on the slide. There are 12 events already confirmed. We're working closely with event organizers to iron out all of the details, the scheduling, and so on and so forth. We hope to have that ready by the end of the fall. But as you can see, just from the sneak peek here, it's really a very broad range of different events. Few of them are just, you know, your academics standing up at the front of the room. We have some really creative events like the University Community Research Bus Tour, which will take people around the city to different NGOs and other organizations that have partnered with the U of R through our Community Research Unit, for example. We have a day-long session workshop on successful aging for all that's going to be organized by Spheru. We have a book launch for a wonderful anthology of Indigenous literature in Saskatchewan, and several other events. I won't go through the entire list right now. But we're very excited about Community Connections, and I will stress again that these events are open to anyone, to the public, to all Congress delegates. We do really hope to have community members coming to campus and participating in these events, so we hope it'll be a really wonderful opportunity to make those connections between academia and our community at large. The second stream of programming that we are in the process of developing is our cultural programming. As you may know, at Congress, there are all sorts of wonderful cultural events that take place. We've called this series Cultural Connections. And as some of you may know, we put out a call for proposals several weeks ago now, and the deadline for that call for proposals is tomorrow. So we are anticipating getting a lot of really wonderful ideas for cultural programming. The purpose of Cultural Connections is not merely to entertain, but really rather to provide a really enriching experience for Congress delegates, something thought-provoking, something that really ties together, the world of academia and art. I can tell you that already in my inbox, I've had a glimpse of some of the really, really creative ideas that are coming from members of our campus and members from the local arts community. So we're really very excited about Cultural Connections as well. I will also mention now that we have sort of two very special events that will be a part of Cultural Connections as well. First of all, we will have Regina-based singer-songwriter Jeffrey Straker joining us during Congress for, I believe, 2 concerts. Right, Patty? Thank you. And I'm also very pleased to say that we are very close to finalizing having Buffy St. Marie come and do a concert and also participate in some association programming during Congress. We're actually working on a very interesting partnership with the Regina Symphony Orchestra that would involve having Buffy and the members of the RSO, some members of the RSO, present a concert and possibly a talk. So we're really super excited about that as well. We think that we're developing a really compelling set of events for your time at Congress. One last note, again, one of our host university responsibilities is the president's receptions. Please make a note of the date that is assigned to your association for those president's receptions, and keep that in mind as you're putting together your programming. You want to leave that evening open so that your association members can attend the president's receptions. These are, of course, as you know, a wonderful opportunity to meet your colleagues, have a free drink. No one will object to that. Have some food and visit with one another. So please keep that in mind for your programs as well. I think lastly, let me tell you about the opening reception being held on Friday, May 25th. This is sort of the big kickoff to Congress, a really lovely event that is by invitation. And we're hoping to really show our wonderful Prairie hospitality at the opening reception. Handing off the baton.
Okay, so one last piece of Congress programming that we want to make sure you're aware of is the Congress Expo. So that is an opportunity for your members to engage with the over 50 exhibitors that will be available in the Congress Hub, and that's in the Expo. It's mainly scholarly publishers exhibiting in one space. It hosts a dynamic programming lineup as well, book signings, launches, career presentations, Expo Cafe, and it's very centrally located this year, actually in the Center for Kinesiology, which is very nearby here, and that's along with registration and the Information Center in the same location. So exhibitors may want to work with your associations to engage your members, and often will provide special promotions or plan book launches to appeal to specific research areas, consider sponsoring association programming or special events that might appeal to your members. So definitely reach out to us if you see an exhibitor that's on the website that you're interested in, and we can connect and see what possibilities might come up there. And encourage your attendees to visit Expo and participate in the passport game. We have that returning this year, and that's a way for the attendees to connect with the exhibitors and also a chance to win some great prizes. So packages to Congress 2019 are part of the prize package for that passport game. And we're always looking to grow Expo, so if you have suggestions or potential exhibitors that you think would be a great fit for Congress, just email us and let us know, and we'll take that under advisement. So the second area of the mosaic that Gowrie was talking about that makes up Congress programming is your association programming and how that relates to your conferences. And the first step to getting that information about your association conference onto the Congress website is a form called the Association Conference Details. So this form is facilitated through the Congress request system, and its purpose is to gather information and sort of a compelling rationale for your attendees to visit or to register for your association conference. And that's typically no more than about a paragraph of text, and that information is just entered into the Congress request system, and then we import that into the Congress website so that's available for all of your members to read. Association pages are actually very high traffic areas with over 14,000 visitors between January and June each year. So we want to ensure that the information on that association page for your conference is up to date and can help you advance registrations and interest in your conference. Note that it's only one step of the association programming. It doesn't replace the need for you to submit your program. We would still need you to submit that program so that we have that information on the website as well. So speaking of programs, each association is obviously responsible for developing your own program. We do recommend, however, and this is a new recommendation, so we're trying to see how this works out, that every association use the same time slots, because this facilitates members who may have registered for more than one conference to move between associations. And that's feedback that we've received from Congress attendees that shows they want to be able to present at multiple associations. So oftentimes the conflicting schedules, if you're on different time slots, makes that pretty difficult for them. So using these similar time slots not only makes it easier for members to take full advantage of networking opportunities, but also to navigate Congress as a whole and allow easily for you to co-host joint sessions because they're using the same time slots. So in your planning guide, you have sort of a sample of what we would suggest for time slots, and if that works into your association program, that would certainly help out members. Also, as part of that section in your planning guide is some tips you might want to consider when you're creating your program, and that's keeping programming between the hours of 8:30 and 5 o'clock. Using consistent timing slots each day of your conference, so not changing the time slots from day 1 to day 2, and hosting evening receptions and special events after 6 o'clock, because if you do have something going on until 5 o'clock, the members may look for a little bit of downtime before they go to a reception, change clothes, and things like that. It's also important that you consider time for them to move between sessions. So if you have a 15-minute break in between session 1 and session 2, that allows for bathroom breaks or maybe picking up a coffee or moving next door to a concurrent session. So that will help out as well. So some other tips is scheduling at least 2 coffee breaks. We know there's a lot of coffee drinkers in the academic community. So allowing for time to pick up that coffee, or even allowing for a little bit of extra time as a break so that there's some networking time so that attendees can talk to one another. And as Gowrie mentioned, leaving some time over the lunch period to attend Congress programming such as Big Thinking. and allow attendees to network by avoiding scheduling sessions over lunchtime unless it's a special reception you're having, so that they can talk to each other and not have to necessarily sit and listen like you are now, because I know it's quite a long presentation. So the next section of association programming is opening up some of your events to the Congress, General Congress members and to the public. So any association, if you would like to open one or more of your events to general attendees or to the public, it's just a simple matter of filling out an open event listing form, and that does live in the Congress request system. For any session, if you have 5 sessions that you want to open, you would just fill out 5 of those forms. There is a caveat here, though. Only officially participating associations for Congress 2018 are eligible to open programming. So just make sure that you're on our list, and then all is well. So it's a great way to actually attract sort of interdisciplinary members or general attendees to see what's going on in your association and promote your research and sessions, the speakers that you have. So once you submit that form, we will take all that information and input that into the Congress website, into what we call the Congress, the online calendar, and it also appears in the Congress Essentials Guide. So that goes out to all attendees when they register, and they can look through that guide and see what other open events, other than their regular sessions, they might look to attend while they're at Congress. The one piece that you need to remember, though, is if you're looking to open an event, there cannot be additional fees or a separate registration system for these types of events. So speaking of conference programs, we do need you to submit those to us so we can put them on the website and your members are able to view them. We have changed the deadlines slightly for this, which I'll talk about in a moment. And allowing these programs to come through to us helps both Congress attendees and actually media representatives as well, which Nicola will talk about a little bit later, because they often search through these programs ahead of time for before Congress to see if there's specific sessions that they're interested in coming to as part of your association program. So ensuring that we have the most up-to-date version is helping both yourself and us to promote your conferences. So it's a PDF version that you'd be responsible for submitting, and new this year, if you've been with Congress Planning before, that actually will be an upload through the Congress request system. It makes it much easier. We'll be able to streamline things, and you can upload as often as you need. Just follow a simple naming convention that's including the association number, your English acronym, French acronym, and the specific date of that program. So you can see an example there, and it's also in your planning guide. This is using CPA as an example. So it would be 47-CPA-ACP, and say they submitted this program on March 16th, it would be 2018-03-16. So just try to follow that naming convention. It will make it easier for those programs to get onto the website. And once you receive them, they will go onto the association section of the Congress website. And we're looking for your preliminary programs, and this is the date that we've changed to be March 16th instead of February, and the final one to come through to us by April 20th. So the last piece of conference programming is to make sure that your presenters have all the information they need to be able to arrive on campus and have knowledge of what they're expected to be doing or what equipment would be available to them. So as an association organizer, you are responsible for filtering that information through. We have a wealth of knowledge to provide, and there is information in your planning guide there and tips of things that you might want to relay to them. And there's also a accessible presentations document, which I mentioned before, and that gives them things that they might want to include, making sure that they are speaking about any screenshots they have on the screen, and those sorts of things as well. So it's an important piece to initiate discussions with your speakers and see if there's anything that they need for equipment based on what they're presenting, and make sure you do that before the April 6th deadline for ordering equipment in AV so that you can get that equipment into your rooms based on what your speakers need. So now I would like to invite Nicola Katz forward, and she's going to talk to some of the programming, promotion, and branding for Congress.
Thank you. We've heard a lot about programming, and I'd like to take a few minutes to talk to you about how to get word out about your association programs beyond your own association, beyond even the Congress community. I'm actually going to speak to the next 4 sections of your guide. The next 4 sections, which are mailing lists, branding guidelines, media work, and social media work. So let's begin with association mailing lists. We do ask all associations to please share email and snail mail mailing lists with us in advance of Congress. This is to help you promote your event. Now, the best way to get us your mailing list is to ensure that they are CASEL compliant. So this means that you have permission to send them commercial electronic messages. CASEL is a very complex legislation. It stands for Canadian Anti-Spam Legislation. In your planning guide, you have a URL where you'll find out more than you ever wanted to know about CASEL. We can also help you if you have questions. But a good rule of thumb is that CASEL compliant lists include members who have been engaging with you in the last 24 months. Not calendar years, but 24 months. So these are people who have paid their dues to you, attended your events, spoken at your events, and engaged with you through email. Those are people that you have permission to reach out to, and those are the people that we would like to include in our Congress mailings. When you do submit your list, we ask that you go to the organizers portal and use the Excel spreadsheet provided there. It helps us merge the lists, remove duplicates, and work with your list very easily and quickly. Privacy is really important to us, and your lists will remain private. We will, sorry, the screen is disconnected here. Okay, got it. That we will respect your members' privacy. We will only use it for this 1 year, your list. We will only use it to promote Congress 2018. We'll use it to send out information about such things as which associations are coming, how to register, when to register, early bird deadlines coming up, keynote speakers, and then also the fun side of Congress, tourist attractions, hotels, accommodations, things to do on your time off. These lists are due by October 27th. So we do begin promoting Congress pretty soon, so we ask you in the next month or so to work on your list and get them to us. Sorry, I'm just synchronizing here for a second. Okay. So, to help you in the development of your programs, which you've heard a lot about now, we have a visual toolkit we provide for PCs and LACs each year. This toolkit is available right here on the organizers portal in the branding and logos button, and it provides all kinds of things that you can use to make your kits more interesting. You've got Congress 2018 logos that you can insert on your website. You can put them into your newsletters. You can take elements such as headers and footers to make your documents more attractive. You can put them in your call for papers. You can put them in your draft programs. You can put them certainly in your final programs to make them look pretty slick. We've got PowerPoint templates if you'd like, if you're presenting to your members, or you can even share them with your members to use at Congress to make things look a little more uniform. We've got an email signature which you can put in your own emails below your contact information. The University of Regina and the Federation begin using these immediately after this planning meeting, and you may want to insert that into your own emails as well, especially if you're sending Congress-related emails. We've also got big thinking logos and information that you can insert into your programs. You've already heard that a good way to get your members to attend this series at lunchtime is to put that directly into your program, especially if there's a specific topic or theme that's of interest to your discipline. So as you can expect, because we're sharing these branding guidelines with you, we do have some rules that we would like to share with you as well. So there are English logos, French logos, there are bilingual logos, so depending on what kind of document you're producing, we'd ask that you use the correct one. We also ask that there are horizontal logos where the buffalo is in line with the name of the conference. There is also a stacked logo where the buffalo is sitting on top. So we ask that you can choose whichever one works well for your space, for your document, or for your digital version of whatever you're creating. And if you're going to use the Federation or the University of Regina logos, we would ask that you give them similar prominence by making them similar size. So those are the do's. We do have a couple of don'ts. Some of these may look funny or obvious to you, but we've had members get quite creative in past. So we ask that you please do not do any special effects or shading or create GIFs. We ask that you do not change the color or the size of the logo elements. We ask that you don't use only a piece of it, use the whole thing. Larry, here you can see Larry just used only the buffalo. Larry is fictitious, but and then over on the far left, you see the buffalo has changed its location. It really needs to stay where it's supposed to stay. So please do use the visual toolkit, but try to use the elements as they're given to you. Now switching gears to media work. Our membership has varying levels of interest and capacity to engage in media work. But for the Federation and for the host university, reaching out to mainstream media is a priority for us, and we'd like to be your allies in helping you do the same if you choose to be interested as an association in doing that. So we're your allies in ensuring the media can navigate the extensive programming. It really is extensive, with over 5,000 presentations per year. We reach out to the media well in advance of Congress. We have a media tour that we do with the host university. We go usually to the Toronto headquarters of media, make them aware of the conference, help them learn to navigate the website and the various programs that you're putting up. We do it also on site. If journalists come on site and they ask us what they'd like to, how we would advise them to spend their day, we help them plan out a day that makes sense with their beat and their interest or their specific assignments. We'll be your allies in showcasing the value of the humanities and social sciences research at Congress to the broader public. So we really try to push the bigger story of Congress and the important moment it is for Canada and for our disciplines. Try and get the bigger picture story out to the journalists. And we're your allies in giving your association and your membership visibility beyond the typical academic community that you work in all the time. We measure the quality and the quantity of our media outreach, and we want you to be part of our success. Every year is a little bit different depending on the media market that we're in. For example, last year in Toronto, there was a lot of media noise, so to speak, and this will be quite different in a smaller place such as Regina, which is a good thing. Nevertheless, last year we had about 125 media stories, and those were in almost 60 different outlets. 72 researchers were profiled, 34 institutions were profiled, and 10 the previous year in Calgary, where it was again a smaller venue, there was a lot more local and regional media interest because of the size of the location. And in Calgary alone, we had over 50 stories just from the Calgary Herald and CBC Calgary. So it really can vary. So I would encourage you, if you're interested in media, please be in touch early, and we can help you with that work. And as association representatives, you're probably curious which associations get the most attention. And it's actually pretty varied. There's only one repeat in the last 3 years. So in 2015, the top number of stories went to Women and Gender Studies and Recherche Féministe with 40 stories. And the runners-up with 34 stories each were the Society for Socialist Studies and the Canadian Disability Studies Association. In 2016, 20 stories were written about the Canadian Political Science Association, and the runners-up were the Canadian Law and Society Association with 18 stories, and the Canadian Population Society with 13. Last year at Ryerson, the top number of stories went to the Canadian Association of Food Studies, and that was with 22 stories. And then second was Canadian Political Science Association with 12, and the Canadian Historical Association with 9. So it is really anyone's guess where the media will focus their attention, which stories they'll pick up. So it's always interesting for me to see the spread. And you as PCs and LECs can contribute to our media outreach in several different ways. First, if you can get us great association programs, that's a really good start. Take the time to make sure that your program is the best that it can be. Work with your members to ensure that they're providing concise, catchy, and coherent abstracts. It's not just their own colleagues that are reading it. There are actually media people coming to the website and reading these. So if there can be a media hook, if there can be a value proposition, if there can be a tie to current events or current interesting things happening in your sector, that will get people's attention. So spend some time on the programs and encourage your members to do the same. If you have VIPs or high-profile speakers, let us know well in advance so that we know, especially if they're going to generate media presence. We want to help you and be ready and be there for you to help with that. If you have media-ready research lists, that's great. It helps us skip the process of opting in researchers because all of our media work is optional for researchers. We approach each individual researcher and they can opt in or opt out of media work. If they're not comfortable with it, they don't have to. But if you have media-ready lists, that's great. For example, shout out for CSSE and CPSA who have media-ready lists that they provide to us each year. And those are very useful. For example, the Globe and Mail post-secondary education reporter has told us that she uses the CSSE lists year-round. When she's looking for experts or quotes, she's got that list ready from Congress. And finally, if you have association media outreach happening at the association level, if you're triaging your own program for interesting media-friendly stories, or if you are issuing media releases, let us know. We can help you and support you and amplify the messages you're already sending. So send us draft programs, draft information, reach out to us early, and definitely submit your final programs on time for April 20th. We're well underway by that point, so it's really important to have your final programs. Switching gears to social media, away from the more traditional media, Congress is social, and we encourage you to be that way as well. We have a number of platforms where we're active, and if you're active on some of them or all of them, that's helpful for us to know. For example, we've got an active Congress blog starting in January. It's very active, and we encourage you, if you've got interesting speakers, interesting issues, a really hot topic, a book launch, anything that you feel that your community could benefit from knowing well in advance of Congress, just let us know, and we'd be happy to include that in our Congress blog. We're active on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn year-round, but especially around Congress. So if you are as well, let us know. We can cross-promote, and be sure to put your own Congress information on your platforms as well. We don't maintain an Instagram account year-round, but around Congress, we do encourage visuals to go up on Instagram, and you can use the regular Congress hashtag, which is here at the bottom of the screen, on Instagram as well as on Twitter. I'm just going to take a minute longer on Twitter because it is our actual largest platform that we use at Congress for communicating. Congress is very hectic, for those of you who've been there before, and it's a good way to get out very quickly the information you need people to know. It's quite powerful, and it helps. It can sometimes unveil information that we didn't even know was happening at Congress. One of my favorite examples is that one year, a couple of years ago, we had a very famous philosopher coming to Congress. We didn't know that. We'd read all the programs, we hadn't noticed. Very world famous philosopher coming to speak about superintelligence. And he was coming from the University of Oxford. And somehow it surfaced on Twitter. And sure enough, the New Yorker magazine was suddenly in touch with us, asking could they attend, and they sent a reporter and they covered the story. It was a really great outcome, but it was something that we had missed in the programming. The association hadn't mentioned it, and it was a really good outcome. So it all came out through Twitter. So Twitter can be quite powerful. Last year, for example, we had over 13,000 tweets. And I encourage all of the associations to please follow us at ideas_ide. Encourage your members to do the same. And be active before Congress, as well as on site. Ahead of time, you can drum up a lot of good buzz, and we can help to amplify that if we're following each other. And then on site, we can help to resolve issues, questions, room changes, program changes, and more logistical things as well as contributing to conversations that are happening during Congress. So please use the Congress hashtag consistently. It's a good way for people to just log on and see what's happening. They can just track that hashtag directly. This year, specifically for Regina, we have a hashtag See You in Regina hashtag as well. And we encourage you to use that, especially in the lead up to registration. After that, it'll probably fall away a little bit. But you all have a button to remind you. And if you have handles or hashtag lists that you'd like to share with us, please do. We maintain a nice big list of handles and hashtags that we share with our hired bloggers, hired tweeters, and our staff, and anyone who wants our list. So let us know. We're happy to share that in advance of Congress. So final thoughts on media and social media. Congress really is a great opportunity to get your researchers and your research and your impact out beyond the walls of Congress, so to speak. And let us help you with that. We can help you if you send us really good programs, keep us in the loop, and if you remain active and engage with us on social media. If you have questions, a good way to reach us is communications@ideaside.ca. Now back to Lindsay.
Okay, thanks, Nicola. So we're in the home stretch now. I'm sure you're all really excited to hear that. So just some quick sort of reminders about all the other stuff that's going on that doesn't necessarily affect your planning process, but that you'll want to know that both the university and the Federation are working towards creating for your attendees. So we work hard to provide you with an excellent accommodation options at the best prices and amenities with room blocks that are booked at each location years in advance. This booking at official hotels means staying near other attendees, allowing for more networking opportunities. So we encourage everyone, and for you to message this out to your members as well, to book with an official Congress hotel, as it also assists in negotiating hotel rates for future Congresses and then helping the affordability of Congress and your association conferences. So on page 39 of your guide, you'll see that the University of Regina and their federated colleges as well will be offering attendees a variety of really great room options in 4 different residence buildings. There's a range from traditional dorm rooms to 4-bedroom apartments, and most of these have actually been renovated in the last few years, I believe. So anyone participating in the orientation tour this afternoon will actually get a chance to see some of these if you're interested, and all the information will be posted on the Congress website in the coming weeks. So the Federation also reserves a large number of hotel rooms within close proximity to the university campus, and reservations at these properties are on a first-come, first-served basis, and each hotel will have a different rate deadline by when bookings will need to be made. And after that time, availability cannot be guaranteed, so make sure that you're paying attention to those deadlines when you're messaging out to your members about where they might want to stay. Each hotel also holds a different quantity of rooms for Congress, so if you're interested in setting aside a portion of rooms at a specific hotel, then definitely touch base with us and we can help you out with that, or you can reach out directly using the booking codes published on the Congress website, and all that information will be available on the website in the coming weeks. It is important for organizers to know that neither the Federation nor the University of Regina utilize a service of any housing or accommodation vendor. We have had in the past a third-party accommodation vendor try to reach out to an association looking to get them to block a what we call a sub-block of rooms with their company. That's actually a scam. So we don't want you giving out your credit card information to any of those types of companies to make sure that you are safe and secure as well. So the next piece is sort of the plan your trip information. So the Federation and the university work really closely to create a great list of both things within the community and things within the campus that your attendees need while they're on site for their conference. And that facilitates a smooth transition to the campus when your attendees arrive on site. So this includes identifying special discounts for airlines, car rental companies, other travel options, as well as working with the tourism group and with the university about special sites that you might want to see in Regina, information on public transit, which was shared a little bit earlier, taxi companies, parking options, child minding and day camp options if you're traveling with children, hours of operations for food outlets, and specifically the social zone, which is the networking and tented beverage area on campus, which you'll also get to see when you go on the orientation tour, and any other campus services that will be available for attendees. We also work together to create a Congress map, which you would have picked up during registration here this morning, and that draft version is available today, outlining the key locations on campus for Congress. And we'll be adding various elements to that map as we go through the process and identify other areas, specifically food outlets or information kiosks, things that attendees will need to know when they arrive on campus. And that map will become a final version, which you'll see in the Congress Essentials Guide, which you receive when you arrive on site. And all of this information is also posted on the Congress website in the Plan Your Trip area of that site. So the last section of your planning guide there is just contacts. So at any time during the planning cycle, if you need assistance or have questions, contact us at the organizers@ideas-uday.ca. We have a whole team behind that email available to support you as needed, and some of whom you were introduced to today. We're constantly also in contact with the University of Regina team, so they can provide answers as you need from them. They have created a couple of dedicated email addresses for some of the services we know that you'll have questions about, and that information is in the last page of your planning guide there in section 7.0. And that covers printing services, who I believe are outside today, as well as catering requirements and audiovisual needs. So if you have specific questions, you can contact those people about things that you might be looking to do in your spaces. So just remember, we're always here to help. This presentation actually is being taped today and will be available on the organizers portal, and also the PowerPoint slides will be shared on the reference documents page of the organizers portal. So there's always some sort of tool available. Just reach out to us and let us know, and we'll help you through this process.
Well, thank you very much, Lindsay. I think we all should give her a round of applause for that work on today's program. Now we're at the point of our session where we open up the floor to anyone who may have some questions. I know we're now between us and lunch, and I've brought Andre back up to the stage just to let you know where we are with programming. So I'll ask Andre to come to the podium, and then we'll open up the floor to some questions and answers.
Hi again, everyone. Just a housekeeping matter. I'm just very happy to say that life speaker Noel Starblanket has joined us, and he'll be having lunch with us, and also he'll be speaking to us shortly after lunch. So please do stay for that portion of the program. So we'll do the question and answer, then we'll have lunch, and then we'll invite life speaker Starblanket to address us.
Great, thank you. We have a standing mic in the middle of the room, and we would just ask that you do approach the microphone because, as Lindsay indicated, we are recording this, so that way that anyone listening to the video will also hear your questions. So we are ready to take our first question.
Hello, I'm Sylvain. I have 3 questions. So the planning guide we got, is it going to also be available to the program coordinators if they're not here today?
The program guide will be available on PDF on the organizers portal, and it will be in the references.
Oh.
Yeah, it's in the references part of the website. For those associations that weren't able to make it today, we will also be mailing out a hard copy of the guide, and if you wanted to take 1 or 2 with you, whatever we have left as extras would be available at the reg. I don't know, Donna, do we have lots left? Yeah.
Where will be the book fair and the president's reception?
So yesterday we had the opportunity to see the space that will be used for the Congress Hub, which includes the expo area and the book fair and registration, and our expo event space, and that will be in Gym 3 in Patty, in the kinesiology building. And the president's reception will be in Gym 1 in the same building. Yes.
And my final question, it's about lunches, because like in Toronto, for lunchtime, like it was easy just to cross the street and find a restaurant. Here on this campus, like the closest restaurant is on Kramer, and we, like with 1,000 people, I don't think everybody will fit. I've heard there will be food trucks coming on campus, and also, should I recommend my association to provide lunches?
What I'll do is I'll just ask Patty to maybe address this question so she can provide some good info.
I'll just speak here. We will have food trucks on campus as well, but not every day, because we're working with Regina Downtown Farmers Market at this time to see when they're available. In our social zone, there will also be food services available in the social zone, which will be located on the academic green, as well as Chartwells will have full services here on campus for catering and vendors for food for purchase. The Owl will also be open. Which else do we have? Oh, and Luther Cafeteria. Thank you, John. Luther Cafeteria will also be open. So we should have plenty of food services available for all Congress delegates during the week of Congress 2018.
Great, thank you.
I'm Randy Johnner, and I just have one quick question. I just need to, I thought I heard, this is for the 2.3.3 for the Grad Student Travel Awards. There was 100 miles mentioned. Was it within a 100-mile radius or outside of a 100-mile radius?
Yeah, so we're finalizing the criteria now, but we believe that for the Grad Student Travel Award, only people living outside a 100-kilometer radius of Regina would be eligible for that particular award because it does involve a stay in the residences. Anyone who's within 100 kilometers of Regina would not be eligible for that specific award, but they might be eligible for the local graduate student award. So we do have a couple of different categories.
Thank you. I was hoping it was outside of the 100-mile radius because then otherwise, if it wasn't, it would exclude the Saskatoon campus students, social work and nursing. So I just needed to clarify that, so thank you.
Yeah, no, if the place of residence is further than 100 kilometers away, they're eligible. Yeah.
Excellent, thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, sorry that was loud. Two questions. One, for the complimentary passes, what happens for people with 2 or more associations they're attending? So will the complimentary pass, would that only cover the one association, and then they would apply for other association fees?
Okay, Lindsay, do you want to take that one?
Yes, I believe. I'm going to look to Donna. She's our Congress Registrar, and she's going to correct me if I'm wrong. But it would only apply to your association because your association is the one asking for the complimentary pass. If they wanted to attend another association, they would have to pay for that.
Okay. And then the second question is for gender-neutral bathrooms. Is that considered an accessibility request, or is that just something that's going to be available throughout?
So as we've been talking with the university representatives in the last couple of days, they have identified there are gender-neutral washrooms on campus, and that will actually be encompassed in the accessibility guide and all the information on the Congress website that will be uploaded, so they wouldn't have to request it. We would just identify where they are.
Okay, so if a certain organization would want to be in a building that had gender-neutral bathrooms, would that be a request that they put on the accessibility section?
Not in the accessibility section because that's per attendee,
okay.
But in your room request, make that notice so that the university is aware when they're allocating.
Okay, thank you.
Is there going to be any arrangements at the airport, like a desk for people coming in and any kind of perhaps transportation, a van or something from the airport?
With the University of Regina, we are just working through all of the shuttle arrangements that will take place. I know that with Tourism Regina, they are working with the Airport Authority for welcome desk as well. And as far as the particulars surrounding airport shuttle itself, that hasn't been finalized or completely flushed out. But that information, once it is finalized, will be made available through the website. Patty, I don't know if for airport services, airport shuttle, if there's anything you would like to add at this point, or... Sorry to put you on the spot.
That's okay. So we presented to City Council on Monday about transportation support. So that was just approved Monday night. So the next step is we work with the city based on hotel uptake, which will start in January. And from that, we develop the registration of people coming in on certain flights for transportation to and from the airport. As well as to and from the hotels to the University of Regina. So we base it on hotel consumption or uptake from the hotel rooms booked per nights, and then we enhance the bus routes that are there. So it will be a whole lot better than it is now, and you could call it a charter service, but we just have to tweak the bus routes on where they're going to stop on campus, or will it just be one destination? So we think we may enhance the bus service versus it just being a direct charter. And that way it doesn't matter which bus you get on. If whatever number's coming here anyways, it's going to be a direct route to the campus. So does that answer the question?
Yes.
Is that good? Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you. And all of that information, we will keep you updated on the website. And when we refer to the hotels, we are referring to the official hotels that are listed in your planning guide. So if there are attendees asking you questions, if they're not a part of the official list, there will not be arrangements made. But if they happen to be in the neighborhood of a hotel that's on our official list, they may need to walk to a pick-up and drop-off place. But again, as Lindsay indicated, we do encourage you. Tourism and the Hotel Association here in Regina have put a lot of work into the program, so we would ask you to use the official hotels of the Congress, as they are a big support to hosting Congress here in Regina. Is there any other questions? If you could come to the microphone. Thank you.
First, I would like to thank the Aboriginal people for allowing us to share their physical space as well as their spiritual space with them.
Thank you.
I am a member of the BCSA, Black Canadian Studies Association, and we are newest member of Congress.
Yes.
So we are very pleased to be here. I have series of questions because we are new, so please allow me to ask my questions, and you don't have to answer all of them. Now, my first question is, do we have any academic workshops that will be offered for this year for people who are taking PhD, MA, or postdocs? My second question would be, do we also have workshops that are being offered for tenure track, tenure and promotion, dissertation writing workshops, publishing of theses, and etc.? Secondly, and most importantly, do we have some of the above panel workshop when they are soliciting panel members? And does BCSA have the right to offer some speakers on those series? The next question would be, with Congress community lectures, we would like to feature a member from the BCSA to take part in your public lectures. We understand last year you had Kanye West from the United States, but we suggest that you also have Canadian people who are equally qualified to offer lectures. And on the short list, I have Dr. Efua Cooper from the Hase University, who has done a lot of Black Canadian history throughout the country, and especially in Montreal, Toronto, Nova Scotia, and Manitoba. She has also written extensively on Black Canadian experience and have written several books, most importantly, The Burning of Old Montreal and The Hanging of Angelique. So I would suggest that we look at Dr. Cooper as the next person to offer lectures when the time comes up. Thank you.
Thank you. Lots of excellent, good questions, and it's surrounding programming. And Gary had mentioned that we're very interested in working with your associations on programming. So I think what we'll do is we'll take your questions offline and have a good conversation with you. And as a part of the questions that you're asking, we talked about the open events forms. So the open events forms is an excellent opportunity to showcase some of your speakers from your association and make it available to Congress as a whole, as well as open to the public. So those, some of the items that you were talking about, those would be great opportunities for us to use those as open events. And Gary can sit with you and we can talk about that type of programming. And Nicola, I guess, yes? Yep, thank you. Anyone else have any more questions? No? All right, so from a synchronizing our watches point of view, we have lunch, we have our guest speaker, and we have a tour taking place starting at 1:15. We may adjust it just slightly for our timing, but our intention is that anyone who is planning to go on the tour, that we will be announcing it'll be leaving shortly, so we'll finish up our timing. I don't know, Patty, if you want to add a couple of words? No, you're good. So, thank you so much. It was a speed dating experience for you, I bet. We are just an email away, and enjoy lunch. Thank you very much. Thank you.